I want to clarify the recent issues that have been getting a large amount of media attention. First, I would like to make it clear that I have never filed a criminal complaint against my opponent in this race. That being said, I have received numerous complaints about my opponent's conduct over the past several years, as far back as 2014, when I first ran against him. I believe the reason these people have directed these complaints to me throughout the years is because I've showed interest in the position. Let me reiterate that throughout the entire time, I've received numerous complaints from numerous citizens. Some of the complaints seem to be possible ethical violations, but several involved abuse of power by elected official, falsifying documents, and using equipment for personal business, and using county employees on duty for personal business. And using, well, some of these complaints came to me while I was a police officer. Some came to me while I was running for office, and even more have come to me since I was elected. I've always directed these individuals to file their complaints at the Wichita County Sheriff's Department, the Texas Rangers, or the Attorney General's office. I have never filed them myself. As a prior law enforcement officer, I recognize some of these complaints appear to be legitimate concerns and should be investigated. This type of behavior that I was hearing and seeing from the prior commissioner played a large role in me deciding to run for the commissioner position in the first place. I did not feel that it was in the best interest of Wichita County to have a person in office who had the volume and the types of ethical complaints being stated to me, as well as being reported to law enforcement. I ran on being ethical, transparent, and a good steward of the taxpayer dollars. I was nominated to run as a Republican candidate for this position after my opponent resigned to run for Congress. Throughout this time running for Congress, he continued to receive a paycheck and retirement and health insurance benefits from the county, which are taxpayer dollars. What I found interesting is that there is no resignation that I can find on file, which is required when you're running for another office. Nor did he pay the benefits ever, did payer benefits never stopped. And he was employed by Wichita County until I took office in November 2020. Since then, he has paid back 4 of 7 paychecks he received, and he has only paid back the net pay, leaving him to owe the taxpayers over $11,000. I knew that there was an ongoing investigation into his actions, and I knew that there had been investigations before I took office. I never knew if any of this would be released by my opponent, and I never knew if he'd be arrested. So I did not release this information myself and have allowed law enforcement to do their jobs. I thought it best to let this investigation go through the legal process, and I wholeheartedly trust the Texas Rangers and the Wichita County Sheriff's Department to handle this issue. I do feel that the people have a right to know the facts on this issue and surrounding these investigations, and I believe in transparency and honesty to the people who are voting in this election. Unfortunately, criminal investigations do not get completed overnight. It takes a lot of manpower and a lot of interviews to get the truth to determine if there's a legitimate case or not. I knew Wichita County employees were being investigated, and I knew about allegations being made, just as my opponent did. He has made statements to the media recently that he knew investigations were being conducted in the past with employees under him, and he had been interviewed. He even made comments to the media that he went back and questioned these individuals after they were interviewed, which to me seems a little bit unethical and almost a criminal violation, maybe tampering with witnesses. This past Wednesday, while in debate, my opponent raised his voice and called me out by name, stating that I was lying about budget numbers and that I had received these budget numbers I'd received directly from the auditor's office. During this event, and while talking to the citizens there about transparency, his actions prompted me to want to be even more transparent to the people regarding his ethics. There was an issue that I personally observed that occurred inside Precinct 2 that constituted a misuse of county equipment personnel that I had never made a formal complaint about until now. I knew other complaints were already in the works, and I felt this issue needed to be reviewed as well, since it was unethical and cost the taxpayers money. I contacted Sheriff Duke and asked how to make a criminal complaint against the prior commissioner, since I had not made one in the past. He directed me to the district attorney, John Gillespie, which is why we are here today. The following morning, I emailed Mr. Gillespie an email and ask him what steps to take to make a formal complaint against the prior commissioner for Precinct 2. And I'm not going to read the email here. Well, I'll go ahead and read the email. It's just as well. The first email I wrote said, "Good morning, sir. I need to make a criminal complaint against the former commissioner of Precinct 2. Due to all the current controversy involving any other investigation, I want to ask you who to make this complaint to. I felt it better to ask you directly. Since you are the criminal district attorney, please direct me in what agency to make the complaint to, because I want to get this completed. I would appreciate a quick response. Thank you, Mickey Fincannon." Before I got back to the office after lunch, I was already receiving phone calls about this email to the DA. This caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting to get phone calls, but evidently it was unclear why the district attorney would release this email to the media and specifically not include his own reply. I have never, in my 30 years of law enforcement, ever seen anything like this happen. I returned to the courthouse and found the following response from the DA. The answer response: "Commissioner Fincannon, you can seek guidance from the Texas Rangers. As you note, I have sought an attorney pro tem for this situation. Further, this morning I have updated my pro tem to request and include the complaint you are making. When Judge McKnight makes an appointment, I will forward this name to you. Sincerely, John." I in turn replied to John, "I do appreciate the response to the email. Can you share with me why the email I wrote to the Wichita County District Attorney himself regarding a possible criminal matter would be released to the public via media before I received a response? I find this very odd and somewhat concerning. I have been in law enforcement for over 3 decades and I've never seen this. This matter has nothing to do with any prior investigations or complaints, and this appears to be completely inappropriate. I was merely asking to what agency a report would be filed. I'm looking forward to your response." I did later receive another email that said, "Commissioner Fincannon, I believe in the public transparency matters on matters like this. Your email was the basis for what Judge McKnight appointed of a pro tem needed to have broader jurisdiction, since there was an imminent criminal complaint by you. Sincerely, John." For the sake of transparency, these complaints are abuse of power by an elected official. Mr. Harvey used Wichita County employees and equipment to do personal business for himself while on county time. I personally witnessed the outcomes of this, but I had never made a formal complaint until now. I now discuss why I didn't make that formal complaint until now. Number 2, Wednesday I learned of possible falsifying documents by an elected official. So this was new information that I learned on Wednesday, and I requested these allegations be investigated. That's what I was making the report for. I was going to make these complaints directly to the appropriate agencies regarding the outcome of this race. But since the email was sent to the media by the district attorney with the perception that I'm attempting to hide something, I felt it best to let the residents of Wichita County know that the complaints are what the complaints are. Since the district attorney felt that this needed to be made public, I will follow suit. In the past weeks, this election campaign has become very tense, to say the least. I'm running a very factual-based campaign, which appeared by some to have a negative view. Because the facts surrounding the prior commissioner are negative, negativity was never my goal, and only the facts have been presented to me by me. Unfortunately, the facts that I have put out aren't pretty, but they are still the facts. People may ask why I would bring this out now and not when I came into office. I stepped into office, implemented changes, and fixed the direction of Precinct 2, the direction of the budget for Precinct 2. I have things under control, and I have developed a good relationship with the other commissioners and staff, and had no reason to make any of my findings public until the district attorney made it public. I've done exactly what I said I was going to do as a county commissioner. I've stepped in and learned the job. I've been a professional and honest representative of the people, and I've been a physically conservative member of the court fighting for taxpayers in Wichita County. I've spent a lot of time researching county budgets, and I've found a lot of discrepancies. I continue to provide a level of service that Wichita County taxpayers deserve. Truth, honesty, ethics, and transparency. That's all I have.
Vicki, just to make sure we're absolutely clear, the things you communicated to the DA on are separate from the investigation the sheriff's department was
Completely.
completely.
I had two not involved at all.
Okay.
So that's why it's all about transparency. That's why I'm there at a debate talking transparency to the citizens. People deserve transparency. They want transparency in their government. When you're being yelled at and called a liar, it makes you think, I've kept my mouth shut for a really long time, so this was thrown out in the public, so I'm fully addressing it in the public.
This
So-
was at a debate with your opponent?
Yes, he did show up to the fourth one,
When was that?
Wednesday night at the Women's Forum.
Okay.
All right? Any questions from any of y'all?
My question mainly, I know the transparency, number one, first and foremost. So would you say this conference that you called today is more so to address, where you are in the campaign against Harvey, or your feelings?
This is transparency for what? I don't want that. That email was sent out and that story was put out by your station. And the way it was put out was, it almost looks like I'm trying to cover something up. And I'm not. Not at all. You don't normally mention it. If I know something about a criminal investigation, I've been an officer a long time, you just don't talk about it. I don't talk about it to my family, I don't talk about it to other people. Let it go on its way. Does whatever happens. So I didn't put this in the public, but I had to address it because it was put out there. It looked like almost I was trying to do something wrong, and I'm not.
You said you were going to send this information on what your concerns are to the Texas Rangers. Have you done that?
I have been in contact with the Public Integrity Unit of the Texas Rangers in Austin.
Have you heard back from them?
I'm waiting on a major to call me back.
Can you go into detail in characterizing the work you say your opponent had done that was personal in nature with county equipment and staff?
And I will not, because I assume at some point in time that it will be a criminal investigation. That's why I sent a personal email to the district attorney to ask how to file it, because he took the avenue that I knew how to do away. He called for a special prosecutor for the sheriff. So that's who I would make the complaint to normally. I merely sent an email requesting who to send that complaint to, because I don't know. You don't make it to the police department. You don't make it to the sheriff's department now. So I need to know where to make it. So I found out since, and it's on its way.
Okay, you had the incident that you said you personally witnessed. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you said there are
Two.
two. And tell me about the other one again. What it amounted to?
It was, in my opinion, it would be a falsifying document issue. And I'll leave it at that.
You can't clarify that?
No.
These incidents happened when he was in office?
Was in office on both. The falsifying deal I just learned about this week.
Okay. You think this will be resolved before election day?
No, and I didn't expect any of this to be made public or even investigated before the election, because normally speaking, talking to Texas Rangers, if there's an investigation, normally it does not come up or is not ever made public before an election, because they don't want to affect the outcome. This same investigation, I believe, that's going on with the sheriff's department was in process last year before the election. I think. I don't know if it's the same one, but I know there was one then, and it wasn't made public. I wouldn't make it public. I didn't make it public this time. Somebody else did. Anything else?
The sheriff's investigation, the sheriff says was made public, was linked by somebody who lives in Burkburnett.
Well, it does not help me. I can tell you that. This
Well,
controversy does not help my election. So, I don't know. Anything else?
Just moving forward, where are you hoping things go from here so that you can continue to put all your focus into the election?
Back to the same way I started my campaign. Facts and facts. All I'm trying to do is get the facts out to the public I've been 100% trying to do that every day. If all you have, if you put out strictly the facts, then I don't think you can go wrong. That's it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.